The one, the one, the one, the one.
Start by thanking and praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for having created us and having told us the things that we couldn't have known by ourselves, and for having gathered us here tonight for a very precious and meaningful period of time. Friday night is a common time for gatherings, especially in a city as packed as Hong Kong. And but gatherings are of different kinds. At this very moment, there are people who are gathering for food. There are people who are gathering for drinks. There are people who are gathering for entertainment, and others are gathering for socializing. And of course, there's also the kind of gathering that we're having right now, in which we remind each other of our Creator and our hereafter. Although we are all these kind of gatherings, we're all spending the same amount of time. Perhaps at the same time, we're all investing our time in it, and we expect to get something in return. I can guarantee you, my brothers and sisters, this kind of gathering that we're having right now is the most significant and noble in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam informed us in a hadith narrated by Imam Ibn Majah on the authority of Abu Hurairah. He said, مَا جَلَسَ قَوْمُ مَجْلِسًا يذكرون الله فيه إلا حفتهم الملائكة وتغشتهم الرحمة وتنزلت عليهم السكينة وذكرهم الله فيما عنده. There is no group of people who gathers in which they remember Allah except that angels surround them, and mercy covers them, and tranquility descends upon them. And Allah mentions these people, meaning us, and remembers these people to those who are in His presence. And subhanAllah, you cannot find a higher honor than that. That's how beloved this kind of gathering is to Allah. And we should really feel grateful for the opportunity. And on behalf of everyone, I just want to thank the organizers for this kind of gathering, which is really, I think, a very valuable part of our week. So today's topic, and on top of that, this is not only a gathering where we remember Allah, this is also a gathering where we try to seek knowledge that can get us closer to Allah. So the Prophet ﷺ also informed us, as narrated by Imam at-Tirmidhi on the authority of Abu Hurairah, that the Prophet ﷺ said, مَنْ سَلَكَ طَرِيقًا يَلْتَمِسُ فِيهِ عِلْمًا سَهَلَ اللَّهُ لَهُ طَرِيقًا إِلَى الْجَنَّةِ. So whoever embarks on a path seeking knowledge, Allah will make the path to Jannah easy for him, for this person. So may Allah make Jannah easy for all of us because of our seeking knowledge. So that part is to make us feel happy that we are here and feel blessed. This is truly a blessing among all the Muslims in Hong Kong. And that's a lot of people actually. Among all the Muslims in Hong Kong, Allah has chosen a selected group, including each and every one of us, to be here tonight to remind each other of Allah and to learn something new and to adjust our trajectory in life and to reprioritize our things and to rethink and recollect our purpose so that we can start tomorrow and the next week in a more meaningful manner. So the topic of today, time, it is an important commodity and element of human existence, and this kind of importance is understood across cultures. Not Muslim, non-Muslim, religious, not religious, it doesn't matter. Every single culture knows that time is important and that we have a limited amount of time in our lifetime and that it goes one way, it never comes back. Every culture knows that. For example, in Chinese, we have a saying which says, 一寸光阴一寸金，寸金难买寸光阴, which means an inch of time is an inch of gold, but an inch of gold cannot buy an inch of time. And I believe there are similar expressions in other languages as well. So this is not a new idea. This is not a novel thing that time is very important. People naturally know that time is important and time is limited. So if the creation knows, then of course the Creator also knows. The Creator does not only know that time is important, He knows that we know that time is important. And He also knows that we don't know it enough. He knows that we need to know it more sustainably and constantly and more emphatically. And that's why he didn't only tell us the importance of time through our human nature, but he also tells us the importance of time through his revelation, divine revelation, through his messengers and prophets, emphatically to emphasize in his revelation, to directly tell human beings that you should be conscious of time, you should take care of time. And for example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in Surah Yunus, the 10th surah of the Quran, in the 5th ayah, Alhumdulilah min shaitanir rajim. هو الذي جعل الشمس ضياء والقمر نورا وقدره منازل لتعلموا عدد السنين والحساب ما خلق الله ذلك إلا بالحق يفصل الآيات لقوم يعلمون. He said, He is the one who made the sun a diya, a shining lamp, a source of light, and He made the moon a nur, an enlightened object. And let's just stop right there. There's already a linguistic sign here. There's already a linguistic miracle here. Because both diya and nur are nouns to describe light, but they're obviously two different words, so they have different meanings. Diya comes from the verb da'a, which has an active meaning. And also, the extended meaning of da'a is to make somebody understand. If I explain this to you and you understand, it will be da'aka, I made you understand. So it has an active meaning. So Allah described the sun as an active source of light, meaning it emanates light. It is the source of light in a way. And the moon, He called it a nur. And the word nur, intrinsically in its structure, has a passive meaning. Similarly, a verb from the same root anwara means to be enlightened. If I heard something from you and I understood, that would be anwartu, I understood. You made me understand. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala basically is saying that He made the sun the source of light, the source of energy. And He made the moon a receiver of that light, an enlightened object. And this could have not been known by people 1400 years ago because they didn't have any telescope, they didn't have any technology to look at the real existence of these two artificial bodies. So this is already a miracle in the Quran, but for Allah that's easy because He created them. Of course He knows what it's like. So He just says it easily. By the way, I made the sun a source of light and I made the moon an enlightened receiver, a reflection of light. وَقَدَّرَهُ مَنَازِلَ, and I decreed, and He decreed, He decided the course that it functions, the phases, how it functions. And what's the purpose of that? لِتَعْلَمُ عَدَدَ السِّنِينَ وَالْحِسَابِ, so that you can know the number of years and the count of time. Because when we see the sunrise and when we see the sunset, that's one day gone. And when we see spring and when we see winter, that's 1 year gone. And the change of season is primarily caused by the position of the earth in terms of the sun, because different parts of the earth during its course of rotating around the sun, it will receive different portion of light, and that's the change of season. So from a human perspective, the sun has many very important meanings, very important functions. One of it is that it's the only source of energy that exists on earth. Anybody who has taken high school physics knows this. All forms of energy that exist on Earth, no matter if it's fossil fuel or wind or matter, living organisms, all of them are originated from the sun, because without sunlight, plants cannot make photosynthesis, and then there will be no oxygen, and then there will be no other consumers of oxygen, and there will be no functioning of life on this Earth. So the solar energy, the sun, is the only source of energy that is tremendously important. But to Allah, somehow there's something that's more important than that. He doesn't mention that I made the sun a source of energy to you so that you can exist. He said, no, I created the sun and the moon so that you can know time. To Allah, time is more important than your own existence, basically. Because if you're not conscious of time, your existence has no meaning, which I will elaborate more on later. So Allah is telling us that time is very important. Be conscious of time. And I've designed these functions, these objects, to help you know time. And مَا خَلَقَ اللَّهُ ذَلِكَ إِلَّا بِالْحَقِّ. Allah did not create those things except by the truth, except with a purpose, you can say. And the word haqq also means right? When you have a right upon somebody, you have a haqq upon him. So the sun and the moon have a right upon us. Allah created them, Allah gave them a duty, and we also have a duty accordingly. We have a duty to, Allah created the sun and the moon to remind human beings of time, so we as human beings have the duty to be reminded of time. There's a mutual duty here. And then He says, يُفَصِّلُ الْآيَاتِ لِقَوْمٍ يَعْلَمُونَ. He made the signs very clear. He basically clarified it so that for people of knowledge. And you see how knowledge is connected to the conscience of time. For a person to be regarded as knowledgeable, he has to be at least conscious of how he uses his time. And then there is another beautiful hadith. It's narrated by Imam Muslim on the authority of Abu Hurairah that the Prophet ﷺ said, الصلوات الخمس والجمعة إلى الجمعة ورمضان إلى رمضان وكفرات ما بينهن إذا اجتنب الكبائر. Do I need to move? The Prophet ﷺ said, so basically because of the existence of the sun and the moon and the particular way they function, they move, they swim, we have a way to keep count of time, right? We have basic units of time. We have a day, we have a week, we have a month, we have a year. And even smaller, we have hour and we have minutes and we have seconds. So these units are actually used as reminders or as checkpoints, if you will. So that's why the Prophet ﷺ mentioned from the 5 daily prayers, from Fajr to Dhuhr, that's a checkpoint. When you get to Dhuhr, that's a checkpoint to remind you that a certain amount of time has passed. And when you come from Dhuhr to Asr, another amount of time has passed. That's a reminder. You should be aware of your time. So he mentioned that from between those 5 prayers, your sins will be expiated. Your sins will be forgiven if you stay away from the major sins. If you stay away from the kabair, for example, fornication or murder. If you stay away from the major sins, your sins within between those checkpoints will be forgiven. Similarly, from one Jum'ah to the next Jum'ah, that's a reminder. The sins you commit within those will be forgiven. And of course, this is not talking about, you commit a sin on purpose, knowing that you can be forgiven. That disqualifies this contract, right? You have to sincerely want to be forgiven. You have to sincerely regret and repent and tell Allah that you didn't want to do this, and you try your best not to do it again. Then you will be forgiven. So from Jum'ah to Jum'ah, from Ramadan to Ramadan is also a checkpoint for us to remind ourselves. And then we should think, for many of you, okay, who among here prayed the Jum'ah prayer today at Qudum Mosque? Can I see a show of hands? Yes, and among these people, who of you prayed the Jum'ah prayer last week at Qudum Mosque? Okay, so some of you prayed your Jum'ah prayer in 2 consecutive weeks at the same place. And in that amount of time, what have changed? That's a question you need to ask yourself regarding time. When you're sitting there this week, you have to, retrospect. What have happened in the past week? What have I done? Have I got closer to Allah? Am I more qualified for Jannah? Do I think I'm a better Muslim? Am I more knowledgeable about the deen of Allah? Those things should be thought about when you reach a certain checkpoint for time. So Allah mentioned the importance of time, that you should be conscious that time is passing, that time is going away. And but the question comes, so what should we do in that time? When we become conscious that yes, 15 minutes have passed, but what are we supposed to do in that amount of time? How should we make use and utilize this time? An example is given in the Quran describing the day of judgment. On the day of judgment, Alhumdulilah, وهم يصطرخون فيها ربنا أخرجنا نعمل صالحا غير الذي كنا نعمل أولم نعلمكم ما يتذكر فيه من تذكر وجاءكم النذير فذوقوا فلا للظالمين نصير. Allah says this is describing people of hellfire. وهم, and they يصطرخون فيها. They are crying and screaming and yelling in the hellfire. And the thing is here, the word yastarihu, the verb yasrihu already means to cry, to shout, to yell. There's an extra thought here. And this is the root in Arabic language called ziyadat al-mabna, ziyadat al-ma'na. When there's an addition in the structure of a word, there's an addition of meaning. There's a strengthening, basically. There's an emphasizing. So they are, because when you become upset, when you become frustrated, and you cry, you yell, you shout, you feel better. It's a release of negative energy. It's an expression of negative energy. But not here because of the extra thought. Allah says these people in Jahannam, they're crying, they're shouting, they're yelling, but they only feel worse and worse. They only feel more regretful. They only feel more frustrated, more upset. They don't feel better. That's part of the punishment of Jahannam. Yes, what are they shouting? What are they screaming? What are the words they're saying? Our Master, take us out of here. Just extract us. We don't even care what happens next. Please just let us out of here.
نعمل صالحا. We will do righteous deeds. We will do good work. We will give charity. We will say nice words to each other. We will help other people. We will be good people. Basically, just get us out of it. غير الذي كنا نعمل. Unlike what we used to do. This also shows that these people are aware of what they used to do, because Allah doesn't punish a person without the right, without a justification, without a reason. They know what they used to do. But now they're saying, our Lord, please take us out of here and we will definitely do good. What is the reply of Allah? Very simple. أَوَلَمْ نُعَمِّرْكُمْ. Did we not give you a life long enough? Did I not give you enough time? Did I not give you sufficient chance to do what you want to do now, to do righteous deeds and to rectify yourself? Did I not give you enough time? It's a rhetorical question. And on top of that, ما يتذكر فيه من تذكر, long enough so that whoever wants to be reminded can be reminded. It's enough for whoever wants to follow the truth to follow the truth. There's a reason that human beings live for 60, 70, 80 years. There are animals that, there are some kind of mushroom that, starts living in the morning and dies in the evening. It lives only one day. And there are animals that live less than a year. But human beings live 60, 70, 80 years on average, so that whoever wants to be reminded can be reminded. Whoever is pursuing the truth, who wants to know his purpose of life, who wants to have a hereafter that's satisfactory, you've been given a chance, you've been given a life long enough. وَجَاءَكُمُ النَّذِيرُ, and did not a warner come to you? And that's referring to the prophets and messengers that were sent to every single nation. Every nation had a prophet and a messenger warning them, be aware of such a day, be aware of the hereafter, be aware of the limitation of your time, and do as I warn you, do as I tell you, because I'm telling you for your own good. And didn't the warner come to you? What did you do about that? What did you do about the time? And the thing is, after this stop, Allah continues to speak. You're expecting an answer. Allah asked the wrongdoers, but they didn't answer because they didn't have an answer. They knew exactly how they used their time. They knew exactly how they wasted their time. فَذُوقُوا, so taste. فَمَا لِلظَّالِمِينَ مِنْ نَصِيرٍ. There will be no helper for the wrongdoers. So it's a quite scary scene, for sure. But that is a mercy as well, because we are hearing this ayah in this word, and we still have chance. When we hear that, didn't we give you enough time, we should now take notice of the time that we still have, in case that we be told these things in hellfire. That's something we don't want. So Allah protect all of us from hellfire.
I mean,
so basically we've just come to the conclusion that the time you are given have a purpose in it. And more specifically, Allah asks, أَفَحَسِبْتُمْ أَنَّمَا خَلَقْنَاكُمْ عَبَثًا وَأَنَّكُمْ إِلَيْنَا لَا تُرْجَعُونَ. Do you assume, do you think, do you imagine that we created you as a joke, as a game, as something playful, and that you will not return to us? And interestingly, that is exactly actually the attitude, the principle of some people living nowadays. There's the phrase of YOLO, you only live once. You have a limited amount of time, so party it up. So enjoy yourself as much as possible. So try everything that exists. Get yourself satisfied, because you only live once. It's a game, bro. Have fun. So abatha, that's their life. And Allah asks, why would you think that? Why do you think I created you for a game? Why do you think Al-Alim Al-Hakim, the all-knowing, the most wise, would do something like that? And that you are just put here on this earth, live for 60, 70 years, you will not return to us? You will not come back to the one who gave you life in the first place? Why would you think that? It's another rhetorical question. And a hadith that is closely related to this ayah. And also you would find that a lot of times the principles in the Quran are reiterated in hadith in a more specific manner. And that's also a proof how the Prophet is telling the truth, how he can, his words actually reflects the divine revelation. So the Prophet ﷺ said, as narrated by Imam al-Tirmidhi, on the authority of, this one is Abu Barza al-Aslami, he said, لا تزول قدم عبدي يوم القيامة. A slave of Allah, his feet will not move. He will be fixed on the point until he is asked, حتى يسأل, what will he be asked? First thing, عن عمره فيما أفناه, about his life, about the time he had and how he used it, how he spent his life. وعن علمه فيما فعل, and about his knowledge, how he used it. Was it for PR? Was it for public relations? Was it for reputation? Or was it for something that really truly benefits one's soul and others? وعن ماله من أين اكتسب وفيما أنفق, and about his wealth, his money. Where did he get that from? Is it from halal sources or haram sources? And how did he spend it? Did he spend it for worldly interest, or did he spend it in the path of Allah? وعن جسمه فيما أبلى, and about his body, his health, and how it wears out, how it's gradually used up, basically. Because we all know that health deteriorates inevitably in our life as we grow older, and that's also mentioned in the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "Allahu الذي خلقكم من ضعف ثم جعل من بعد ضعف قوة ثم جعل من بعد قوة ضعفا وشيبا يخلق ما يشاء وهو العليم القدير." Allah says He created you from weakness. Think about when we are just born, when we are an infant baby. We can barely turn around by ourselves. And if we do, there is the risk of turning over and dropping off the bed and killing ourselves. We are as weak as that. We can be drawn in our own saliva. It's possible. We're so weak that we can die out of so many different causes without the care of our parents or our caretakers. So Allah said, "I created you from weakness." That's what you were. Remember? It's reminding us. ثم جعل من بعد ضعف. After that weakness, I give you some strength, a little bit of quwwah, a little bit of strength. As we are now, some of us are young, we're healthy, we can do sports, we play cricket on Saturday, we can eat 4 meals a day, right? We feel healthy and we feel strong. And it is quite ironic, it is quite unfortunate that some people would, in this short period of strength, in this short period of power, forget everything about their weakness. Forget about their past weakness and forget about their future weakness. They feel like, I'm the king. And that's also mentioned in the Quran when Fir'aun said that, أَنَا رَبُّكُمُ الْأَعْلَى, I am your highest Lord. I am your highest Rabb. There is no other that deserves to be worshipped, because he felt strong. But when he was eventually buried under the sea, couldn't even speak, he felt the weakness again. So the truly wise people would know their weakness even when they are strong. That's the truly strong people, actually. The strong people are those who recognize their own weakness. And we are by nature weak. We are created from weakness, as Allah says. And after that after that strength, actually a very short period of strength, then He makes you weak again. And then He makes you white here to remind you, another reminder, not only to oneself, but also to others, that this is going to happen to you one day. We're going to become old one day. So take care of the time that you still have and try to make the best of it. And Allah is the all-knowing, the competent. So the thing here is that nowadays, when we want to pray 2 rak'ah, it's easy. You make wudu, you pray 2 rak'ah. Nothing happens after that. There's no pain, there's no negative consequences after you praying 2 rak'ah. But what about a 70-year-old, 80-year-old man, elderly person? When he prays those 2 rak'ah, he will experience pain in his knees, pain in his back, pain in his chest, maybe pain in some of his internal organs. It's hard, it's not easy. Some people, we know of examples of old people returning back to Allah during their prayer. They die inside the prayer because it's not easy anymore, it takes effort. And now it's easy for you to memorize the Quran, for example. If you have a good memory, you can memorize half a page or 1 page, 1 day. You can do that. But when you become 50 years old, 60 years old, 70 years old, it will become hard. It's not about how hard you try. You can try as hard as possible, but your memory fails you. That's just how Allah created us. We will become weak, physically, psychologically, mentally, And so we should make the best use of the time when we still can utilize it efficiently. The ability that we have to use our time, to utilize our time, is not always constant. The things that we can do in 10 minutes at our current age as young people cannot be possibly done when you are 70, 80 years old. The exact same 10 minutes, it's the same amount of time, but you won't be able to do the same kind of things in those amount of time. And that's why Allah is reminding us of the importance of youth. Basically, time is running out. You will not have this kind of spiritual state, physical state, mental state forever. You better use it now, otherwise you will regret. So those are the examples from the Quran and from the Hadith basically a divine instruction that we should be aware of our time. And we know that Islam is a very practical religion. It doesn't tell you only what's right and what's wrong. It tells you how to act, how to live according to what you know about right and wrong. So we have the examples of the righteous predecessors, scholars and Sahaba, about how they use their time, and we would know that they take these instructions seriously. They really internalize these teachings. Al-Hasan al-Basri, a Greek scholar, rahimahullah, said, I have met some people who are more stingy with their time than one of you would be with their dinar or dirham, with their money. So while we might be hesitating to share a bill, we might be hesitating to spend $5 to give charity, we might be hesitating to use a certain amount of money for a certain thing. These scholars, these righteous predecessors, these worshippers, these awliya of Allah, they are hesitating whether I should be occupied by this friend or by this social event for 1 minute. They're stingy with their time. They're not stingy with their money. They wouldn't let their time go easily. They will consider carefully, how should I use this minute of time. Ibn Mas'ud, radiallahu anhu, a very great companion of the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, there is nothing in this world that I regret more. Let's hear what does he regret so much. He says, there's nothing in this world that I regret more than to see the sun set, knowing that the day is gone, while that my good deeds have not increased. That's the most regretful thing. And how many of those days have we had? How many of when we are going to Maghrib and we suddenly realize I didn't do anything for my deen, I didn't do anything for my akhirah in this entire day, and have we ever felt regret because the heedlessness we had in that day? For Ibn Mas'ud, that's the most regretful thing, to have a day passed without increasing one's good deeds. Ibn Jawzi, rahimahullah, a great scholar and a very, very productive author. He wrote many books. And he said, the time wasters, they don't only waste their own time, they come to steal my time. He was very angry when he wrote this statement. They come to steal my time. And I try to avoid them. I try to tell them I don't have time. I don't want to have dinner with you. I don't want to chit chat with you. I don't have time. But I cannot always do that because they're related somehow, one way or another. Some of them are family members, some of them are students, some of them are friends, and they are Islamically aware. See, these people, they tell Ibn Jawzi, we have a right upon you, we have a haqq upon you. لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى يحب لأخيه ما يحب لنفسه. None of you have truly believed until you love for your brother what you love for yourself. They would quote hadith, they would quote the Quran to emphasize that we have a right upon you, you should spend time with us. This is a part of our communal relationship. This is a part of the duty and responsibility of a Muslim. And they have certain truth in it, in their claim. So Ibn Jawzi would, in this situation, he wouldn't avoid spending time with them anymore, but he was very smart. He began to dedicate the matters that do not require much mental power to this time when people come to his house. For example, when he's alone, he would recite the Quran, contemplate upon the Quran, learn the hadith, write books, these things that require mental power and a lot of effort. But when people and family members and friends come to visit, he would say, oh, welcome, come in. And he starts sharpening his pencil, he starts sewing his books, he starts boiling water, but he just doesn't let his time go to waste. He has to do something that is beneficial to his life, especially to his akhirah, even when people come to steal his time, as he puts it. But just to clarify, I'm not trying to say that we should become socially awkward. I'm not trying to say that we should reject people. When a friend comes, hey, let's go for football, you say no. I'm very conscious of my time. You don't go with somebody else's time. That's not what I'm trying to make us do here. But when these people, they reject doing something, it doesn't mean that particular matter has no worth at all. It doesn't mean it's wrong. It doesn't mean it's haram. Right? Islam is a very fair religion. It doesn't reject one thing altogether. Even for alcohol and gambling, يسألونك عن الخمر والميسر. They ask you about alcohol and gambling. قل فيهما إثم كبير. Say in both of them there are great harms, a lot of harms. ومنافع للناس, and there are benefits for people. Allah said there are benefits for people in alcohol and gambling. وإثمهما أكبر من نفعهما. That's the point. But their harms are much greater than their benefits. They harm you more than they benefit you, and that's why you should leave them. So when we try to implement these teachings, when we try to cherish our time, and you refrain from certain activities, that doesn't mean that activity is forbidden or is wrong or is worthless. It just means you have something more worthwhile to do. You have something that's more deserving of that time. It's just like you're at point A, and there is a gold bar at point B, 500 meters away. And there's another silver bar 500 meters away to another point. You would go to the gold bar not because the silver bar is worth nothing, but because the gold bar is worth more, right? So when you decide to do a certain thing with your time, that means you think that is more important than another matter that you can do. For example, many of us are working. When also the time comes, it's still work time. But we take 2 minutes or 5 minutes out to pray, not because we hate our job, or some of us do, many of us do, not because we just don't want to do it anymore. We have to do it, but just because at that particular moment, when asr comes in, it's more important and it's more worthy for me to use my time to pray, to communicate with Allah, to remind myself of this job. That's one thing I want to clarify. And another author, Ibn Aqil al-Hanbali, subhanAllah, this person wrote 800 volumes of books in his lifetime, each volume containing 400 pages. All of them are about ayat from the Quran and hadith of the Prophet. All of them are about Islamic knowledge. And he said, I have deemed it impermissible to myself to waste a single moment of life. I am so conscious of where my time goes. I eat biscuit and drink water immediately after that, so that I can save time for chewing, so that I don't need to chew. It becomes soft, I just swallow it. And he says the time saved from doing this, I can read 14 more ayat from the Quran. SubhanAllah. That's how conscious they are about their time. SubhanAllah. And he said, I would put a pair of shoes at every exit of my house. Back then they have several doors to their houses. It's impossible in Hong Kong, I know, but I'm just giving an example. So he has several exits. He would put a pair of shoes at every exit. Why? Because whenever he wants to leave the house, he would just go to any door and there would be a pair of shoes waiting there. He doesn't have to go around the house looking for shoes. He doesn't want to waste that time. He wants to go as soon as possible. That's how conscious these people are about their time. And Salim al-Razi, a scholar, his students realized that whenever he stops writing, his lips start moving. And his students realized that whenever he stops writing, the moment his pen drops, even before he stood up, he already starts saying Subhanallah, Alhumdulilah, wa la ilaha illallah, wallahu akbar. Subhanallah wa bihamdi, adada khalqi, wa rida nafsi, wa zinata arshi. He starts remembering Allah the very moment he gets free from something else. And he doesn't want to waste those 2 seconds or 5 seconds during from his sitting point to maybe the point to sharpen his pencil. He just uses every single moment for something that's valuable, for something that benefits his hereafter. So again, I mentioned the example of eating biscuits and drinking water immediately after. And some brothers are very anxious right now because I still like garlic naan and I still like my roti. It's taking more time than biscuits. I'm not trying to let you quit roti and naan and some, samosas. It's still fine. But what we're learning here is the principle, is their attitude towards time, is the way they cherish their time. They're trying their best to utilize every single moment that is able to be utilized. And that's something we should internalize. It's not really about the particular act, because we all have different daily routines. We all do different things in life. But when we have that attitude, when we really truly internalize the fact that we have a limited amount of time, and the half an hour or so that has passed will never come back again. It's already gone. Whatever you've done in that past half an hour is already recorded. You can never change it anymore. If we internalize that fact, and if we have that attitude, then we will become closer and closer to the examples of these people. It doesn't happen overnight, of course. We wouldn't become a Hassan al-Basri or Ibn Mas'ud overnight. We wouldn't be able to do the things that they do tomorrow, but at least we try towards that direction, right? It's the simplest thing in Islam. إنما الأعمال بالنيات. Right? Your actions are based on your intentions. At least we try to move towards that direction of becoming time savers. So some of you might be thinking, is this too extreme? Are they really in absolute need of those few seconds to recite 14 more ayat of the Quran? Is it really that necessary to put a pair of shoes at every entry? In such small things, is it too extreme? But the thing is, a person who doesn't value his seconds gradually will not value his minutes. And a person who does not value his minutes gradually will not value his hours. And a person who does not value his hours gradually will not value his days, and then his month, and then his years. So it's possible that we see a brother praying with us during Ramadan in Taraweeh that we saw last year. 1 year has passed, but he hasn't memorized one more ayat from the Quran. He has not known one more hadith from the Prophet ﷺ. He has not developed one more good habit. He has not become one bit more aware of the hereafter. Then that 1 year in the sight of Allah is entirely meaningless. It doesn't mean anything. It's basically wasted. It's entirely wasted. No matter, even if he got a promotion, even if he got a raise, even if he got a, something worldly that is really impressive to people, but in the sight of Allah that doesn't mean anything. So we should become aware of the most basic units so that we can make real changes in the long run. If we do not value our seconds and our minutes and our hours, you shouldn't expect that after 1 year you'll become something else, because eventually you didn't do anything within this 1 year of time. How do we save time then? It's not that hard. It's easier than you think. Because I can guarantee that every single one of us, if we retrospect, if we truly think about our things we do in our daily life, I can guarantee that every single one of us can identify at least one atom, or even more, thing that is not necessary, that we can cut off from our daily life. For example, is it absolutely 100% necessary for you to scroll through the Facebook page and get to know where everybody is? Is it absolutely necessary to send a picture from every meal that you take? Is it absolutely necessary to text your friend ha 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 20 ha instead of 2? So there are things that by seconds and by minutes we can save from our daily life. And when you start saving seconds, you will start saving minutes, just like what I said earlier. And eventually you will save hours and days, and you will make big differences in your life. And for example, social media is one example, right? And food. We have it's nice that Muslims like to socialize during their food gatherings. When they eat together, they tend to talk more, right? They actually spend 20 minutes eating and then 2 hours talking. It's nice, it's communal relationship, but we should be aware, first of all, of whether this conversation is worth this time, whether I can use this time for a better purpose. We're not entirely refraining from conversations, but we should make it more effective and make it more efficient, make it more meaning oriented. So there's a great British speaker whose name is Alhumdulilah, and basically this sharing is based on a khutbah that he gave with more Hong Kong local elements in it. But he gave a very good example. He says, a hypothetical case. Imagine an individual, a person, who spent his entire life, be it 70 years or 80 years, he spent his entire life disobeying and rebelling against Allah, doing all kinds of crimes that you can imagine, all kinds of haram things. It's just, wasting his time for his own pleasure, worldly interest. Imagine this person. But just before, the moment before his death, he doesn't know he's going to die in a minute. He doesn't know he's going to die in a moment. But just that moment, somehow, suddenly, he realized that he was wrong in his lifestyle before, and he sincerely decided to change. And he sincerely repented to Allah and says, "Oh my Lord, I have wronged myself, and now I want to be closer to you." He repented, and he made a firm intention to reform himself, to rectify himself. And then the next second, he died. And we know that out of the mercy of Allah, bi'ithnillah, this person's repentance is accepted. And according to the Quran, all his bad deeds are converted to good deeds. So let's compare this one moment before his death and the years of life that he spent before this moment. Which one is more valuable? Which one do you think is more valuable? I'm actually waiting for answers.
That last moment.
That last moment, right. So that moment, that perhaps second or a nanosecond, is more valuable as a Muslim, is more valuable for Allah, is more beneficial to his hereafter than his years of life that he spent before that moment. Now imagine, what if a person spends his entire life the way that this person spends that second? What would his hereafter be like? What would his status be like in the hereafter? Can you imagine it? So this example shows that time is a great blessing from Allah, because time is the vehicle for other valuable things, other beloved things of Allah. How How do you do good deeds if you don't have time? How do you please Allah and remember Allah and memorize the Quran if you don't have time? Now actually, if you don't decide to allocate time to these things, it's a common phrase, especially in Hong Kong, I don't have time. You may have, one of you may have invited a friend, brother or sister to come to this sharing. You know, we've never seen a Chinese guy speak about Islam before, we should go. But your friend probably told you, brother, sister, I really want to go, but I don't have time. I believe some of you heard this. But if you think carefully about this statement, it doesn't make logical sense. Don't we all have the same amount of time? It's not like you have 24 hours in a day and I have 36. No, we all have 24 hours in a day. We have the same amount of time. So when a person says, I don't have time, what she is actually saying is that I decide to allocate my time to something else. I do not want to use my time for this particular matter. So when he says, I don't have time to pray, brother, you know, Allah will understand, I don't have time to pray. He's actually saying that I think there's something more important for me to do than prayer. I will use my time there. So I don't have time is not a valid excuse. It's not even an excuse. It's logically incorrect. I'm sorry, I was engineering degree, so I try to do this a lot. But the thing is, we should allocate our time in a way that creates value for our hereafter, and we should know that it is the sole source of goodness in our life. Time is the only source of goodness in our life. Meaning, only through time, through using time properly and wisely, can we attain other forms of goodness. And this concept, this understanding, is emphasized by many scholars. For example, Al-Hasan al-Basri said a very famous thing, I believe many of us know already. He says, Ya bani Adam, O son of Adam, innama anta ayyam. You are but a number of days, a certain number of days. Whenever a day is gone, a part of you is gone. He is saying that the building block of human existence, the basic composition of our life, is not blood and flesh, it's not DNA, it's not genes. He's saying that you are made of days, you are made of time. So that's how much you should cherish your time. If you waste time, you're wasting your life. When we say, you know, I just want to kill some time, people say, you know, I'm killing time. No, he's actually killing himself. He's actually killing his life. And another similar saying, I don't remember very clearly, I'll try. It's by Imam Ibn al-Qayyim, rahimahullah, and it's reflected in a book called Al-Fawaid. He said, إِضَاعَةُ الْوَقْتِ أَشَدُّ مِنَ الْمَوْتِ. Wasting time is worse than death. Why? لأن إضاعة الوقت تقطع عن الله والدار الآخرة. Because wasting time separates you from Allah and the hereafter. والموت, but death, on the other hand, يقطعك عن الدنيا وأهلها. Death only separates you from the dunya and its people. So which one is more severe, being separated from Allah and the hereafter, or being separated from the dunya and the people of dunya? It's very clear. So wasting time is worse than death. So far, this journey has been very pessimistic. It makes us feel that, oh my God, I've wasted so much time. I'm so doomed. Right? I can never be like those people. This is so overwhelming. But the good news is that once we decide to use our time properly and wisely, we can make tremendously great things in our life. We all have that potential. Every single one of us, Allah, he has that potential. Because the true life of a person is not how long you live, but it's how much time you spend during that lifetime that you dedicate to the hereafter, to the pleasure of Allah. So the Prophet, ﷺ, if you think about him, he received the revelation at the age of 40. And his prophethood was only 23 years, which is shorter than many of us, the time that many of us have already spent on this earth, right? He spent only 23 years. And what did he achieve in 23 years? He basically revolutionized a nation from one that is trapped in tribalism, that is trapped in warfare, that is trapped in all kinds of crimes and immorality, burying daughters in sand. He transformed this nation to a leading civilization that basically laid the foundation of so many different sciences. Algebra is from Al-Jabr, algorithm is from Al-Khwarizmi. There are so many, even the Renaissance of Western Europe, which is believed to be the beginning of their logical thinking, their free thoughts, is based on the translations of Ibn Rushd in Al-Maghrib, in Morocco, when he translated the writings of Aristotle. Greek philosophy to Arabic languages, and then the Western Europe learned it. So how long did this transformation take? 23 years. The Prophet ﷺ changed the course of human history in 23 years. And not only in terms of the worldly sense, he changed the hereafter of millions, billions of people in 23 years. We are now, we all know that was coming after death because of him and what he did in 23 years. And you might say that, well, but he's the prophet. He's divinely guided. He's inspired. He has Jibreel. He has the angels. He has the Sahaba. He has the greatest people on earth. خير الناس قرني. The best people is my generation. He has the best people supporting him. That's why he can achieve that much in 23 years. He's a special person. We are not like him. Okay, if we move on from the Prophet ﷺ, what about Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiyallahu anhu? What about the first Khalifa of Islam? The first the first successor of the Prophet. And during his Khilafah, it was the beginning part of Islam, of a Muslim community without a Prophet, right? It was very tough. It's not easy. Because there were many fake prophets claiming to be prophets. That's very dangerous. We still have those people even afterward. But at that time, the beginning of a Muslim nation, it's very dangerous. And so he's the one who raised war against the fake prophets to protect the integrity and purity of Islam. He's the one who commanded Zayd ibn Thabit radiallahu anhu to gather the Quran because he saw the need. He saw the importance, the significance of protecting the Quran in its original form so that this religion can never be corrupted. This religion can never be contaminated. He did that. And how much time did it take to do these great, tremendous projects? Waging wars against the fake prophets and gathering the Quran. Along with his Khilafah, it was 2 years, 3 months, and 10 days. And what have we done in our past 2 years, 3 months, and 10 days? What about Umar, the successor of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhuma? During his Khilafah, 2/3 of the populated earth came into the fold of Islam. 2/3 of the world map was under the reign of Islam. Persia, which was once considered an invincible nation, a nation that can never be conquered, became a Muslim nation during the Khilafah of Umar. And he was also the one who spreaded the knowledge of Islam, so that the shuyukh are not only in Al-Hijaz, they're also in Persia, they're also in the Middle Asian, they're also in China. The shuyukh are everywhere, knowledge spread everywhere during the reign of Umar, in Egypt, in North Africa. And how long did it take to accomplish that? 10 years, 6 months, and 18 days. 1 decade. 1 decade and a bit more. What about Sa'd ibn Mu'adh, radiallahu anhu, a great companion as well, who the Prophet ﷺ sent to Yemen to spread Islam? He accepted Islam at the age of 30. So when he was our age, he was not even a Muslim yet. We are ahead of the game. So he died at the age of 37. So the entire time that he spent as a Muslim was 7 years, only 7 years. But the Prophet ﷺ told us in a Sahih Hadith that when he died, the Arsh of Allah, the throne of Allah shook because of those 7 years that he spent on this earth. What about even after those generations, several generations later? What about Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, radiallahu anhu, a great Khalifa who was described as have reminded people of the time of prophethood. When he was the Khalifa, the Muslim Ummah was in such a state that they thought the Prophet was around. He was the one who eradicated poverty. And I believe, arguably that's the first time in human history that poverty has been eradicated in a society. Officials would be taking zakat, money, out to the street, calling who wants money, who needs help, who is in poverty. Nobody answers. Everyone is self-sufficient. Everyone has money. Nobody needs money. Then they go back and they say, yeah, Amir al-Mu'mineen, what do we do with this money? And Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, rahimahullah, says, let's take some grains, let's take some crops to the snow-capped mountains so that the birds don't get hungry in my Khilafah. In a Muslim society, no animals should be hungry. They are also the creation of Allah. And he was the one who, it's an interesting story that I just want to mention, I think it's really beautiful. He was reading a letter one day, about public affairs. He was reading this letter, and the messenger who delivered this letter to him asked, just as, token of friendliness, how's your family? How's your family members? And he said, just a moment, please. Blow this candle. He took out another candle, lighted it, and said, Alhumdulilah, my family is fine. And the messenger is like, what did you do that for? What's that all about? He said, the previous candle belongs to the Muslim treasury. It belongs to the state. It is the money of the government, basically. And you asked me about a private matter. You asked me about my family. I cannot spend that candle when I answer that question. I have to use my own candle when I answer a private question. That's how much integrity he had. So, this great human society that are praised not only by Muslims but by non-Muslims and people from all cultures. This is a legendary society. How much time did he spend as a leader to establish such a society? 2 years and a half. 2.5 years. So, after hearing all these examples, we should be thinking, what have we done in the past 2 years and a half, or 7 years, or 10 years, 3 months and 6 days, or 23 years? And actually, more importantly, what will we do in the next 2 years and a half, the next 7 years, the next 10 years, 3 months and 6 days, and next 23 years? We're not expecting to become like Umar or Abu Bakr or the Prophet ﷺ, but we should have confidence and we should have self-esteem. We should believe in ourselves. I know this starts sounding like an inspirational talk, but Muslims should be optimistic. We start our prayer by Alhumdulilah Rabbil Alameen. All praise and gratitude belongs to Allah. I'm good. I have the potential. I can change. I can become better. I can do great things with my time, and I still have time. So we should be optimistic, and we should really set out to make a plan for our next that amount of time. Because when we recall the life that we had, when we go to the hereafter, we will feel like very short. It won't be 10 years anymore. It won't be 7 years anymore. It will feel like a moment. So, in Surah Al-Mu'minun, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, قَالَ كَمْ لَبِثْتُمْ فِي الْأَرْضِ عَدَدَ السِّنِينَ. Allah asked these people, how many years did you stay on the earth? قَالُوا لَبِثْنَا يَوْمًا أَوْ بَعْضَ يَوْمٍ فَاسْأَلُوا الْعَادِينَ. They said, we perhaps stayed for a day. No, it couldn't be that long. It's actually half a day, maybe part of a day. We stayed for part of a day on the earth. And you know what? We should ask those who can count. We haven't been counting our time, which is actually an indication that they didn't use their time very responsibly. So they went to a person who can count, maybe an accountant, maybe an angel. قَالَ إِن لَبِثْتُمْ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا. And this person said, you didn't stay for very long. You only stayed a little bit. Just a little bit. And لَوْ أَنَّكُمْ كُنْتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ. If you had known, if you had been more aware of your time and how you spent your time, you would have known. You wouldn't have come to ask me about how long you stayed on the earth. But that will be a universal thing for people to feel. On the day of judgment, we will feel like our 60 years, 70 years of life was just like a moment. So the comparison is, if you use this life for entertainment, only for self-satisfaction, only for your own desires, on the day of judgment, you will definitely regret it, because I had fun for like 1 second. But if you endured all the hardship and all the struggles, all the jihad, all the jihad, not astaghfirullah. We are proud of our jihad, struggle against all kinds of difficulties and hardships to get closer to Allah, all kinds of struggles. If you are enduring those hardships in this life, you feel, how is this going to end? When is this going to end? This is so hard. Living in Hong Kong is so hard. I have to travel for 30 minutes to go to a mosque. And then when I go there, because of our Chinese people are racist against me. I'm giving an example, it's not absolutely true. But things happen, it's hard. It's not simple, it seems like a long time, but on the day of judgment, it feels like a moment. It's easy. It's easy that I did all those things for Allah, and now I'm enjoying the benefits, the results of it. In Surah Al-Rum, the 30th surah, the 5th ayah, وَيَوْمَ يَقُومُ السَّاعَةِ. On the day that the hour is established, the hour is referring to the day of judgment. وَيَوْمَ يَقُومُ السَّاعَةِ يُقْسِمُ الْمُجْرِمُونَ مَا لَبِثُوا غَيْرَ السَّاعَةِ كَذَلِكَ كَانُوا يُؤْفَكُونَ. On the day when the hour is established, the mujrimun, the criminals, the wrongdoers, they will swear. They will take an oath, yuqsimu. They will say that, I swear we did not stay on the earth except 1 hour. I swear to God, I only stayed 1 hour, not any longer. That's what they will say. And Allah's comment is, كَذَلِكَ كَانُوا يُؤْفَكُونَ. That's how they were deceived. because they didn't use their time properly. They were deceived, and now they feel this way. There's also a very interesting linguistic design in this. So we know that although the Day of Judgment is called as-sa'a, the hour, but it's not literally an hour. It's not literally a day. It's much longer than that. It feels like some thousands of years, perhaps. It feels like a lifetime, perhaps. So in the hour that feels like a lifetime, they felt that their lifetime felt like an hour. This is the linguistic design in the ayah. And Allah said it very effortlessly. So after all this discussion, I think we have 3 points in mind now. First is that we should be conscious of our time and how we use our time. And we should try to develop the habit of asking ourselves 2 questions. What am I doing right now? And is it worth doing? What am I doing right now, and should I be doing it? Is there something better that I can do? Because sometimes we say a thing is free. I have non-Muslim friends who go to a party and he says, hey, it's free. I said, no, it's not free, because you're costing time. You're spending time, and time is valuable. It's not free, nothing's free. So when you ask yourself, what am I doing right now? And you analyze, is it worth doing? Is there something better that I can do? You're already adding value to your time. You're already adding value to your life. That's one thing. That's the first thing, the consciousness that we should have about our time. The second thing is that we should realize the value of time, which is emphasized over and over again in the Quran. You know when Allah swears by something, take an oath by an object in the Quran. Let's put the Quran aside for a second. Let's think about ourselves as people generally when they take an oath by something, putting aside the fact that Muslims can only swear by Allah and nothing else. But let's take an example of a non-Muslim. When they swear by something, that means that thing has value to them. It's important to them. Right? Nobody says, I swear by this banana. Doesn't make sense. They swear by something valuable. Non-Muslims would say, I swear by the life of my mother, because it's valuable to him. Similarly, the similar principle can be applied to the Quran. When Allah swears by something, that means that object is of value, is important, is something that deserves our attention. And there are so many times in the Quran that Allah swears by an object that is related to time. وَالْفَجْرِ وَلَيَالِي عَشْرٍ وَالشَّفْعِ وَالْوَتْرِ وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا يَسْرٍ. The entire 4 ayat are about time. I swear by the break of dawn, I swear by the 10 nights, I swear by the even and the odd, I swear by the night when it passes by, وَالضُّحَى وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا سَجَى. I swear by the morning, I swear by the night when it becomes tranquil, وَالْعَصْرِ, by time itself, right? And then وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا يَغْشَى وَالنَّهَارِ إِذَا تَجَالَى. All these things are about time. Allah swears over and over and over again by time, so that you may pay attention to the value of time. It's something of value to Allah. It's something valuable to Allah. Shouldn't it be valuable to us? So that's the second thing we should have obtained from this sharing. We should acknowledge and recognize and remind ourselves constantly the value of time. And then the third thing is, of course, how we can practically make better use of our time. And Ustad Ali Hamuda gave a few examples which I think are quite relevant to modern people. He says that you may think that those great people, they did those great things because they are who they are. But the fact is, they did those great things because how they used their time. Maybe at your age, they were just like you. Maybe they were just like you. Do you know that Imam Malik, rahimahullah, when he was young, his ambition was to become a singer. He wants to become a singer. But it just so happened that he became more pious later on, and he acknowledged the importance of using time correctly. Then he became one of the greatest jurisprudents in the Islamic history. And he's the one that, another anecdote that I want to share, he wrote a collection of hadith called Muwatta, right? But that's not the only Muwatta that was ever written. During his time, there were many versions of Muwatta, called the same name, collection of hadith, by different people. So there are some people who came to Imam Malik, rahimahullah, and told him, why do you do this? It's a waste of time. There are other people doing the same thing, or similar things. There are other collections of hadith called the same name. Why are you doing it this way? And Imam Malik, rahimahullah, says, very soon you will know which one of these is done for the sake of Allah. And to this day, the only muwatta that the Muslims know is the one of Imam Malik, because the rest maybe did it for other purposes. And Allah rewards those who have pure intentions. So, if Ustad Ali Hamuda says, if you read 20 pages of a book a day, which is not a lot, because I live near Wan Chai and I travel to HKU for work, every day is 30 minutes right on the bus. Just those 30 minutes, I'll be able to cover 20 pages of the book easily. So it's not hard. If you read 20 pages of a book a day, after a year, you would have read more than 7,000 pages of book. And if they are carefully, wisely chosen books, you would definitely become a different person. And if you memorize a page of the Quran, and by the way, these plans and these suggestions are for all of us, including myself. I'm not entirely doing them myself. I'm also reminding myself to be better using my time. So Ustad Ali Hamouda says, if you memorize one page of the Quran a day, if you stick to that plan, less than 2 years, you would have memorized the entire Quran. So many things are not as hard as you think, but it's a matter of how consistent you can be with your time. So basically, in general, we should have a program of productivity. We should try to utilize, especially our free time. There's a hadith. I forgot to mention. There's a hadith reported by Imam al-Bukhari on the authority of Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "نعمتان مغبون فيهما كثير من الناس الصحة والفراغ." There are two blessings that the vast majority of people, most people, are deceived by or didn't use them well. What are those two blessings? As-siha, health, wal-faragh, and free time. And those things actually go hand in hand. If you use your free time, that harms your body, your health is going to go away as well. So we should remember that those are blessings, temporary blessings. You will not have your health forever, you will not have free time forever. And university students here, I believe there are university students here, I tell you about personal experience. You might think that, I'll start memorizing the Quran when I start working. I'll have a more regular lifestyle. It will be better then. It will not. You will be occupied by other things, not only physically but mentally. Make use of the time that you still have now as a student. It's much more flexible. Do something that's meaningful. Do something that can benefit you in the long run when you still have free time. Now I wish I had spent more time memorizing the Quran when I was a university student, because I could do it whenever I want. I could rest whenever I want. Now I cannot. And I have to stick to the schedule of the work. So make use of that time. And as you grow older, as you have more obligations, and now some of us are not married, you should take that as a blessing. I'm not saying that you shouldn't be married. Don't get me wrong. Let me be clear. You should take that as a blessing in the sense that you have more time. When you get married, you will have less time, but that's a good thing, because you're spending time on something that's also beloved to Allah. Spending time with your spouse and your children is a very beloved thing to Allah. But now you have time to develop yourself. You can prepare yourself to be a better husband and a better wife when you're not married, and that's very worthwhile your time, I think. So try to make don't ever project a future that you can have more free time. You only have less free time. When you get married, you'll have less. When you have children, you'll have even less. When you become old and weak, you'll have even less free time. So start now, start tonight, start this moment. So basically, there are other things that Ustad Ali Hamouda mentioned. For example, nowadays we have our mobile phones. It's very, very convenient. We have podcasts. You can listen to Mufti Min, Ali Khan, Omar Suleiman, whenever you want. Right? It's very, very, very convenient. So download some lectures in your phone, and when you're commuting on the MTR or whatever, listen to the lecture, so that it's not a waste of time, so that you don't spend time looking around trying to find out kissing couples and condemn them in your heart as a jihad. You can listen to the lecture and develop yourself. That's more better way of using your time. And then keep a notepad and pen. I always do. I have a notepad in my book. Although you can type on your phone, I still prefer writing sometimes, because it gives you time to organize your thoughts. Keep a notepad and a pen, so that whenever you have a good idea, sometimes we as Muslims, we do believe in metaphysical inspiration, right? Sometimes knowledge or ideas or creativity comes to you just through divine intervention. You may be stuck in a research paper, you really don't know how to do it. It might just come at a very unexpected moment. And if you have a pen and if you have a piece of paper, you can write that down. You can record it, so that it's saving your time that way, basically. And anything that you think can benefit the Muslims. It's an interesting thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-Baqarah at the very beginning, He said, Alif Lam Mim, ذلك الكتاب لا ريب فيه هدى للمتقين الذين يؤمنون بالغيب ويقيمون الصلاة ومما رزقناهم ينفقون. The last part is the part I want to emphasize. Allah was describing the muttaqin, people who have taqwa, the righteous people. He mentioned 3 traits in this ayah. He said, these are the people who believe in the unseen. And then they establish prayer. And the third thing, from what we have provided them, they spend. Allah didn't say and they pay zakah. Allah didn't say and they give sadaqah. Allah didn't say they spend money. From what we provided them, they spend. And Allah provided each and every one of us different things. We have different talents, we have different skills. Some of us are good at speaking, some of us are good at writing, some of us are good at memorizing, some of us are good at making friends, some of us are good at making our friends hate us. But the thing is, we all have different designs. Allah designed us in different ways. We have different talents, we have different skills. And that's the rizq from Allah, that's provision, right? Allah said, whatever I have provided you with, spend that for the sake of Allah. It doesn't have to be money. So you don't have any excuse anymore. You know, people say, I want to give sadaqah, but I'm poor myself. How can I give charity when I'm poor? So I don't do it. Well, but you have other things that you can invest for your hereafter. If you have a beautiful smile, that is a great sadaqah. That is that's the hadith says it's a great sadaqah. We have a brother on HKU campus, brother Nu'man Shah. I'll name him because it's a good thing, it's not backbiting. He has very beautiful smile and the best hug I've ever had so far. And that sadaqah, it really cheers me up. It's a good thing. So whatever Allah has provided you with, spend that for the sake of Allah. And relating back to our topic today, there's one kind of rizq that Allah has given to all human beings that exist on this earth. And that rizq is time. If you cannot spend money or your talents or your abilities or your knowledge, spend your time for Allah. Even remembering Allah, praying alone, that is your spending for the sake of Allah. That is mimma razaqnahum yunfiqun. So I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us internalize of what is shared and make us practical on the suggestions that were made to transform us to be more time-conscious people, so that we can use our time more wisely, more responsibly, more productively, and through that way of using our time, we can become better Muslims in this world, and we can become people of Jannah in the hereafter. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. بارك الله لي ولكم في القرآن الكريم ونفعنا وإياكم بالآيات والذكر الحكيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
MashaAllah, tabarakallah. Jazakallah khair, Brother Isa, for that wonderful talk. First of all, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So first of all, I would like to welcome everyone to the center. This is our first such a massive gathering by Allah's mercy, and we hope you all will come again and again. Will you? Yeah? Okay, so we are Muslim Council of Hong Kong. I don't want to talk about like logo or anything like that, because Brother Wayne, I'm sure you know him as well, like with the SIT. So again, we were like, forget the logo, it's about the goal. So it's just great to see people coming together for the sake of Allah, hopefully. Renew our intention, like Brother Isa said in the beginning as well. If we came because our mom and dad were forcing me to come, then renew your intention. That you came for Allah. And please do keep following us wherever platform you're using. And do give us feedback. We are really open to anything. Anything you think, hey, the timing wasn't right, let us know. Could you have more things for children or for sisters or for brothers, whatever it is, please knock on our door. No, literally. If you want, bismillah. But send us a message or anything like that. Would you like Brother Isa to come back again?
Yes.
Inshallah. So no pressure, bro. Okay? So yeah, Jazakallah khair for everyone who's come. Really, we were really pleased to see such a gathering. It's all by the qadr of Allah, it's all by the mercy of Allah. And of course, as Brother Isa said, this was written for us. The qadr of Allah, that we were supposed to be here. We had 2 paths. We could choose not to be here. We could choose to be here. And Alhamdulillah, inshallah, we chose the right option to be in such a wonderful gathering. So what I would say is that right now, the brothers will have a Jamaat here, inshallah. The sisters who want to join the Jamaat, Isha's Jamaat, the room at the back will be for the sisters. Here will be brothers. We have a toilet here if anybody wants to do wudu. So inshallah, you can do the wudu, and then we'll pray the salah, inshallah. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
It's the one, the one.